Everyone has skeletons in the closet, starting with your neighbor's Uncle Pete, and ending with the boards of directors of large companies. Corporations differ only in that destructive effect upon dissection, personal secret maximum quarrels with loved ones, but open dark affairs. They can lose the state, colossal image status, and even will plunge his people into poverty. Complained that in our videos we talk about mainly about the USSR. No problems today. We will talk about the most secret place. France is very close to Paris, a gigantic zone of exclusion spread out. It's like Chernobyl to go there. It is impossible, criminal, even dangerous for. So about everything the nearest couple minutes, because the trip to France is the coolest. Peace old palaces, Eiffel Tower, the Louvre and other attractions. Money at millions of tourists from all over the world. No less people choose Azure Shore, thereby promoting France in every possible way. Few tourists are sent, will refuse to travel by car. The green spaces of Victor Hugo's family. Yes, the trouble literally went away for a couple of days. Hundreds of kilometers from Paris. Northeast you will rest in many tablets and strange ones. Forbidden zone. In some parts like a wooden duo. Monde, and there will be fenced ones at all. Barbed wire field with so strict. It smells like a warning from the military. In the spirit of Chernobyl. Isn't that true? The assumption will be absolutely correct. After all, in the very heart of France is not far away, but Paris has settled down quite well. Official exclusion zone. It is called clearly documented. Zone Rouge differs from Chernobyl in that the USSR and later Russia were forced to do so, to account for one's misfortune before everyone. Peace, but France, so as not to fall. Image and status is trying, if not to deny, minimizes everything. Mentions of the Rouge Zone. Why? Yes, because it's saturated. Chemistry, but for the most part of it, 99% of life and speech are destroyed. About the tiny territory that the French square was taken out of context. Zone of 1,200 square kilometers, so, over time, it decreased a little, but still, about 100 of them remain colossal. Kilometers where real red color on the cards, and any movement not on this territory can lead to a quick and not too happy death. For comparison, Plyashka Pripyat 8 square kilometers, and that's all. Chernobyl zone 2,600. It turns out that there is also a seemingly prosperous France, no less, and even more poisonous square, only a couple of times less. Chernobylskoy. But what is happening in general? How did it turn out for us to answer? Let's go to the good old 1916 in Pa. Europe is the first to advance with a skating rink. Well, if it is exactly very slow. After all, this war was a triumph. There were tanks for defensive purposes. Slow and aviation was only frightening African natives, but at the same time, trenches and fortifications outpaced progress, and to take something by storm was practical. Unreal, therefore, the majority are defeated. It was more like a terrible bloody one, trampling in one place if someone is not in course in battles they took part with the sides of Germany, Austria-Hungary, Turkey and Bulgaria, and on the other, Russia, France, etc. Great Britain had other allies, but a confrontation is important for us now. Germany and France. The Germans were late. The exit to the colonizers Rhinoc-Yasnaya, America, Africa, and a huge part of Asia were under the control of the French, and, of course, the British did not like the Germans. The peak of the lobby of juicy colonies in Europe as well. Since the end of the 19th century, a meat grinder has matured in. In 1914, the plan did begin. The Germans wanted to quit huge forces for the conquest of France, to quickly exclude from the war. But as we have already mentioned, the decisive role of the conflict was played by the defense of Germany. Got stuck in the French defenses, constructions, and despite the gigantic ones, losses on both sides could not. Neighbors will advance the most. Is indicative in this regard. Battle of Verdun. It went down in history as Verdun, meat grinder, and gave birth to the same Zone Rouge. The German plan from the Blitzkrieg spilled into that the battle lasted almost an hour from February 21st to December 18, 1916, in the Titanic. Meat grinders took part almost 3 million people from two sides. The cruel irony is that towards the end of the battle, opponents turned out to be exactly the same positions held before its beginning, only every day the guys watered a friend from the artillery. They threw bombs and burned with chemicals, weapons, resulting in total losses. Made up about 1 million people, and that's it. They remained lying in the same area. Is called the exclusion zone. A significant part of the corpses was later dissected, and to this day there is a duo under Verdun. The Manx ossuary is in the mass grave. The remains of 130,000 people are resting. One number excites consciousness, and now throw here that this is the village itself. Duo month, like hundreds of others, is destroyed to the last house. But even this is not the worst thing. The terrible thing is that there are some plugs of the earth Quantity taken in the exclusion zone. Arsenic exceeds the norm by 300 times the first. The World War went down in history as the progenitor of chemical application, weapons in battles. It was she who caused the decisive damage. Ecosystem work that reads the report, published by environmentalists after the war. The Rouge Zone is completely wiped out by damage. 100% agriculture damage to buildings. 100% impossible to clean. Unsuitable for human life since then. Little has changed, but nature has taken over. But on the overwhelming part of the Rouge Zone, you can find the entire Mendeleev table. Lead and mercury, chlorine and arsenic killed up to 99% of all living things of the forbidden zone. Certainly tens of thousands of people. Trupov also contributed to poisoning of the territory was undertaken. Numerous requests at least somehow will revive agriculture and animal husbandry, but the products turned out to be complete, periodically unusable. The authorities regulate restrictions, but even swimming in the water of the zone is strictly prohibited. After all, it is not only about chemistry and not about hills formed by hundreds of thousands of falls. Shells are found every hour in the Rouge Zone. Thousands did not detonate their ammunition. They are being worked on to this very day. Sappers and enterprising residents are armed. The entire museum in 2005. The Agency for the Security of France declared that on every hundredth of a square kilometer, there are approximately 300 Rouge Zones, projectiles, and the most optimistic forecasts for complete cleaning of the territory. It will take another 300 to 700 years, of course, on the condition that the current pace cleaning will be able to save. Some territories have long been appropriated. Green level of danger. However, the Rouge Zone remains a very, very dangerous neighbor. Actually, this is the reason for which you have never heard of. Forbidden to visit the territory of France. Does not want her bread to be meat and others. The goods were considered chemically dangerous. In the international market and the TV series from HD, we definitely won't wait for Rouge anyway. Completely transparent data of a degree. Infections are rarely reported by visitors. That inside the zone everything is absolutely chaotic. Somewhere you can go for a walk if you don't think about food underfoot, but somewhere the military can saturate the body with a crown for suspicious. A step in the prohibited direction, and all this without nuclear reactor explosions are a bunch of friends. Shelivkov decided to fight with the other. Kukoi and Poneslos here is hidden. The real reason for banning chemical. The rulers did not care about weapons. No matter how much people will die in battles, it is a problem for them, in that it was won with the help of chemical weapons of the territory, become completely unsuitable for Zizny Zona Raz, and it turns out that after victory over the neighboring country is still needed 1,000 years for land restoration. That is why, according to the results of the First World War, chemical weapons were strictly prohibited under cover. Human rights, and the Rouge Zone remains a terrible reminder of that, how destructive the war is. After all, if we are talking about the territory, almost comparable in size, St. Petersburg, only one battle made her desolate and forbidden a few hundred years ago. That's scarier. Literally 20 years later, people don't calm down and started even more destructive war and similar zones. Alienation on Earth is very much if you are. If you want to know more about them, don't forget, like and let us know. Comments, we will be happy to talk about. It will be in the next editions. Until now, see you again, friends.